Hello everybody, my name is console.log, and much to everybody's disappointment, I am in fact back at it again, working hard at making as many circular dependencies and random songs I'm realistically never going to use as possible. While I was gone, I decided to go back and play the old version of Eclipsic, and oh my god, not only is there absolutely zero polish, there's random FPS drops, the players are square, the crafting and inventory are cancer, and double clicking on an empty inventory slot just crashes the game. The moment I was booted off of my desktop, I instantly gained massive amounts of motivation to provide you guys with an actual playable game instead of literal malware. The very first thing I did after I was done the last video was sleep, and right after that I decided the world looked a little boring, so I quickly slapped together some procedural trees. I made an entire function for this that had all these different arguments and everything, and it was a waste to just generate one type of tree, so I decided to make some new biomes to go with them. There's a plains, of course, and then the desert, dark forest, jungle, ocean, and tundra. None of these biomes are even close to finished, and neither is the general world generation, but at least the surface is somewhat interesting. I also changed it so that the dungeon would now generate underground as normal, and then shoot a tunnel up to the surface. It is supposed to be an early game dungeon, so it makes sense that you should be able to access it from the surface. Now, a lot of you guys probably have no inkling of the amount of effort it takes to make a full-scale game like this, and honestly, I didn't either. After the world was done, I made a checklist of all the things I needed to change and add to even get to developing the boss, and I ended up needing to add basically double the things that I listed. I made a day and night cycle, resolved circular dependencies, changed mobs so they could have different colors, resolved circular dependencies, added falling blocks and liquids, and resolved some more circular dependencies. To continue progression, obviously the player needs to be able to craft things. Crafting is a whole massive can of worms in and of itself, but I think I did it pretty well. In the last test go Terraria, you could craft any item anywhere, and all the recipes appeared in your crafting menu all the time, constantly. This is annoying and gross and dumb and stuff, so I changed it. It works kind of similarly to Terraria now, but with one key difference. Stations need to be in their own specialized rooms. I'm gonna expand on this concept more in the future, but the vision is this. In the old Eclipsic, you wouldn't really have any reason to build a base at all, and I wanted to change that. I also did not, for the life of me, want to implement NPCs, so I decided that specific crafting stations would need specialized rooms. For instance, while a basic crafting table can work anywhere, this game's equivalent of a health forge might need to be inside a special smithery that requires an anvil and for all the walls to be made out of iron or brick or something. And an endgame crafting table might also need a solid celestite room that's at least 64 tiles in size, etc. This will mean that you'll have to build yourself a base as you keep progressing, which I think is quite cool. I might also try a modded Minecraft-like approach with machinery that requires certain resources. I'm thinking of an endgame furnace that requires a constant massive supply of lava that's produced automatically and piped through your base, or a more directly inspired energy system like RF. I think that'd be a cool and significant difference from Terraria that differentiate the game enough to make it its own thing. Let me know what you think about that in the comments, of course. Items will also only appear in your crafting menu if you have at least one of any ingredient required to craft it, which declutters and improves crafting significantly in my opinion. Once crafting was implemented and all the bugs were fixed, I needed to add the weapons you'd use to kill the boss, and the weapons you use to obtain those weapons. This is probably the longest segment of development, just because of all the time I spent procrastinating. I eventually got it all done though, and here they all are in order from least cool to most cool. The zombie staff. Summon zombies, crafted from zombie drops. It's really underpowered in my opinion, but summoner sucks. The iron scythe, it's alright I guess, but it just buffs you when you use the crit, and it doesn't do anything especially cool. The flintlock pistol is just a pistol, but it's really powerful, and maybe a little bit overpowered if you pair it with some emerald bullets. The teleceiver is a summoner weapon that's just a retread of the starter weapon, but more powerful. Summoner still sucks. The bow is the starter ranger weapon. It would go below the flintlock if it didn't have a special bow behavior. In Terraria, they just act like guns, but here you can charge them like in Minecraft. The snake staff is one of the two good summoner weapons, along with the teleceiver. I think I need to update the zombie arm. The lead scythe is significantly cooler than the iron scythe due to its crit attack, which flings you forward and gives you iframes. The leaf scythe is exactly the same as the lead scythe, but faster with higher DPS. The leaf blower is a minigun that fires leaves which float upwards. I used it as a debug weapon to shoot bombs while I was testing them, which was very fun. The bounce magnum, a cool name with a cool sprite. It's a revolver that shoots bouncy bullets. It's very powerful in enclosed spaces, and it's extremely useful for the boss fight. The rebound dagger is like the bounce magnum. It bounces around, but it's closer to a calamity rogue weapon than a conventional melee one. There's also the emerald scythe, which is even cooler than all the other scythes because its critical attack will keep you in the air and shoot projectiles at wherever you're aiming. The mana cap mushroom is a fungal weapon that shoots a spread of small mushrooms in front of the player. It's pretty useful, but it's kind of inconsistent. The emerald tome is the grindiest weapon craftable at the moment, requiring 8 emerald ingots crafted with 10 emeralds and either 1 lead or iron ingot. It inflicts the emerald shard debuff on hit and is kind of mid, but one of my favorite weapons. And finally, the 4-core staff. It has this unique firing method never done before in any game ever, where it shoots projectiles from the top of the screen down at where your cursor is. Unique and useful for the upcoming boss fight. Speaking of the boss fight, this guy is mid. I'm sorry I can't make the corrupted automaton cooler yet. I did some testing, and with his current attacks, there's not a whole lot of opportunities to get around him, so it's pretty much a sideways fight along the ground. His attacks are repetitive and simple to dodge, but I did add a grappling hook in an attempt to make him more interesting. I am gonna have to go back and change his attacks and movement so that he's actually fun and interesting to fight though. I'm historically pretty bad at making these boss fights, so I'm gonna need your help to make the corrupted automaton a better boss. I don't know, maybe less bullets and more movement attacks? There's also, of course, armor. There's currently only 2 sets. They're both exactly the same, with the only differences being the textures and the crafting recipes. Armor will get a whole lot more varied in the future, I swear. There will be armor sets you can make from killing bosses, armor sets you can make from farming mobs after specific bosses, etc. There are very little limits to what armor and accessories can do as well. For instance, a helmet could act like a grappling hook, or a chest plate could act like a scythe. They also pretty much apply any buff or stat improvement, and they can even do stuff like lower gravity. Anyways, that's pretty much it for now. If you're enjoying the series, please, I beg of you to like and subscribe, and force all your friends at gunpoint to watch this as well. Make sure to keep clean. I have been Console.log, and I'm out.